Hello there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel back again on your YouTube screen, and I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that it's that special time of the year again, the time when all your favorite internet people come together and start listing things, what they liked, what they hated, what they thought, was underrated. In years past, I never really did these types of videos myself for comics because, I don't know if you know this, but comics never frickin' stop. It's hard for your favorite comic critics to look back on the year that was because DC and Marvel never really give us a break from comics. Heck, even Christmas Day, they were coming out with new issues. But you know what? I wanted to challenge myself for 2019. I thought I did have some interesting picks for my list, and so with that, let's get to it, shall we? This is Cape Joel's 10 favorite comics of the year in no particular order. So, starting things off right, a book I feel a lot of people may very well have missed this year, and that is the Thanos miniseries from Tini Howard. So to start things off, let's show a little love for a creator who really came into their own this year, and that would be Tini Howard. I could have picked her Strike Force team book, or her Excalibur X-Men book, or that really awesome Adam Warlock one-shot from the Guardians of the Galaxy annual, but I wanted to talk about Thanos instead because, well, it's just kind of stuck with me ever since I read it. The comic tells the story of Gamora's first few years under her cruel and evil stepdad, Thanos, how their relationship evolved and devolved over time. It's basically a Marvel version of that movie Beast of No Nation, one that continuity junkies like me loved because it fits so very nicely after the events of Jason Aaron's Thanos Rising. It's a book that's got a lot of action, some fun dark humor, and it lets us look at the Gamora-Thanos relationship in a completely different angle. This book also gave us casual day off Thanos, and I must admit I am forever grateful to it for that. At only 6 issues too, it's a nice breezy read, and if you're reading the current Donny Cates Guardians of the Galaxy, it links up with that book as well in a pretty unexpected way. Now after that, we have Die from Karen Gillan. I don't get to read enough indie books on this channel, mainly because the superheroes pay my bills and you gotta give the people what they want, so rest assured if I did manage to make time to read an indie book, it must be pretty damn special, which Die certainly is. Dungeons & Dragons, if you haven't noticed, has been having a real cultural moment the last few years, and I think that really interesting works of fiction like Die are all of that crystallizing into one sort of unexpected work. But what's it all about, you might be asking? Well, a group of moody British teenagers play a cursed tabletop game that ends up trapping them in a fantasy world. Oh, they get out eventually, but their DM friend is left behind. Flash forward, and now the teens have become dysfunctional adults, dealing with the scars left over from the game, as well as the fact that their friend has still been considered missing all these years. Now, circumstances bring them all back into the game, where they must slay their own internal demons if they ever want to escape and make peace with both their past and their present. The book also looks amazing. Every piece of the fantasy land is just so damn creative and comes packing that very special kind of dry British wit that I love so much. This feels like one of those works too that's just destined to become a streaming series in the future, so get on the wagon now so you can say you liked it before it was cool. And hey, because this video isn't long enough yet, honorable mention time. Rick and Morty vs. Dungeons & Dragons 2 Painscape Torment. This one comes from Jib Zub, a man that, I make no secret of the fact that I am a huge fan of. This is a comedy book. Comedy books don't get near enough love when it comes to end of the year roundups. This one is really funny, a really good sequel, a really interesting read on a lot of the Rick and Morty characters, and just, a lot of really fun fantasy tropes. As I mentioned before, Dungeons & Dragons is having a real moment culturally right now, and this is definitely one of those books that, similar to Die, probably wouldn't have existed if not for what's going on right now, and I, for one, am very happy that it does exist. From there, I wanted to talk about Avengers: No Road Home. So this is one of those books that came out really early in the year, and I feel like most people sadly already forgot about it, which is a shame because it's both an awesome Avengers story on its own and a great sequel to Avengers: No Surrender, which in and of itself was an amazing story too. No Road Home does that thing I love so much in comics, where it shines the light on so many Marvel heroes that never really get their day in the sun, like cult favorite Hercules, Monaco, Rambo, etc., etc. While No Surrender was a cosmic story involving the Grand Master and stolen planets, No Road Home is a sword and sorcery tale through and through, so much to the fact Conan the Barbarian makes his big crossover debut in this book with a stellar little team-up involving the Scarlet Witch.
Being a weekly series too that never got late or fell behind, I feel that this series also stands as a great testament to the collaborative power of Marvel's current writing staff. No Road Home brought together the likes of Jim Zub, Mark Waid, and Al Ewing, who were able to seamlessly trade off issue to issue while also infusing the story with their own personal flair and ideas, especially the Hulk segments that were being written by Ewing, and trust me, we're going to talk more about the Hulk later. More than anything though, I think what I really liked about No Road Home is that it ended up being such a positive, feel-good superhero story, which were kind of in short supply this year.
No list of 2019 would be complete if I didn't also mention Justice League by Scott Snyder.
Now, I don't think I'm telling tales out of school by saying that in terms of quality, DC had a major roller coaster of a year, and trying to find some mainline DC stories that stayed consistent was a little bit difficult. Thankfully, though, there was Scott Snyder's Justice League. An epic story that spanned time and space, had all the gravity of a crisis without actually being called one, and shook things up creatively a little bit by letting the Trinity take the back seat this time around, and taking a page out of the Justice League cartoon show, had fan favorites like Jon Stewart, Hawkwoman, and especially Martian Manhunter drive this time around. Another thing to really like about this book is how it let us spend almost as much time with the villains in the Legion of Doom as we did the heroes. Snyder, along with co-writer Tynion, also took it upon himself to have Lex Luthor explore some uncharted waters. We see him battle questions of faith, his hatred of aliens, even his family legacy. It's good stuff and will probably end up being a major touchstone when it comes to modern-day Justice League runs.
And you know what, because I did mention him co-writing Justice League, it would be wrong of me if I didn't also bring up as an honorable mention Justice League Dark from James Tynion. Worked really hard on this book. It was creepy and it was spooky, mysterious, and occasionally ooky, but in the best way possible. DC really has been dropping the ball in the last couple of years when it comes to their magical and paranormal universe, but Tynion really just wrote one giant love letter, and as many people have told me, this was also their favorite Wonder Woman book of the year, as Wonder Woman is kind of the headliner for this new era of Justice League Dark, and I can't really blame them. It's a book that works on a whole lot of levels, and really excited to see where it's going to go in the future, especially as Tynion is ending his run very soon so he can go off and write Batman. Keeping the DC train moving, we have Deceased from Tom Taylor.
Well, no, this sure was a pleasant surprise, a scary zombie book that came out in October that actually had way more depth than you might at first think. It once again confirms that Tom Taylor is the master of building alternate DC universes too, if that was ever in question following Injustice: Gods Among Us. The story could not be more simple. What if horror movie zombies took over the DC universe and the heroes were powerless to stop it? Well, you would get some creative, gory, often unexpected kills, but you would also have a chance for the heroes to show what they were made of, fighting against unwinnable odds. In fact, for a book filled with so much death and disembowelment, it's the little humanizing moments between Robin and Superboy, Green Arrow and his love Black Canary, who actually becomes a Green Lantern in this one, that make the book surprisingly one of the sweetest reads I had all year long, as well as one of the scariest, which if you ask me, that's just a winning combo.
We're about halfway through the list right now, and with that I give you Superman Smashes the Klan.
So at the time of recording, only 2 of 3 parts of this miniseries are actually out yet, but it's been so damn good I don't see it not nailing the landing. If the title wasn't a dead giveaway, this comic is a direct spiritual successor to the famous Superman radio serial, Superman vs. the Clan of the Fiery Cross, wherein the Man of Steel did battle against the all-too-real Ku Klux Klan at the height of their power, and actually ended up dealing a real-world blow for justice. This comic work from Gene Ewan Lang, who is no stranger to working on the Superman family of books, tries to do much the same, while clearly being a deeply personal work for the author himself. The story sees an Asian family moving to Metropolis only to be targeted by the Klan. Luckily, a very golden age Superman is there to save the day, and these events also just so happen to correspond to Superman dealing with his own alien refugee heritage. I don't talk enough about art as a critic, but Guri Hiu, who is not a person but actually a collective of artists, turns in some of their best work I've ever seen here. It manages to feel timeless, but also invokes the iconic Superman iconography that I love so much. A truly timely work as well that I feel can be enjoyed by people of all ages, and one that feels almost destined to be a teaching tool on the subject of racism once it's all collected.
Now, what's next on the countdown? How about everything Chip Zdarsky wrote in 2019? And I mean, like, everything.
Okay, I know I'm cheating, but seriously, 2019 was the year of Zdarsky. Everything he touched turned into solid gold. The man was truly bulletproof, no doubt about it. From his engrossing and adult take on Daredevil that sees Matt give up the red suit in issue 1 after shaming himself as a hero only to begin a mirrored journey of redemption alongside longtime hated foe Wilson Fisk the Kingpin, to Spider-Man Life Story, a decade-spanning epic that shows Peter Parker aging in real time and facing not only his toughest battles from the classic comic book stories, but also real-world American history like Vietnam and 9/11 all at the same time. To even the likes of Zdarsky's own 2-issue creator-owned fantasy series The White Trees that plays with classic sword and sorcery tropes to make something that feels completely fresh and new. Oh, and how can I possibly forget The Invaders, probably the most slept on of his work, which is a damn shame because this is easily the best, most complex, most rewarding and layered Namor story in years. They're all winners, either were classics out of the gate or destined to become modern classics. You can't miss any of these, you gotta read them.
Alright, we got only 3 more and I want to talk to you right now about Shazam!
It's no secret that Jeff Johns had wanted to write Shazam for years, and while his New 52 retcon of the Captain Marvel family may have been a hard pill to swallow at first, this new ongoing, whenever DC actually bothers to release it, is probably one of the most warm, positive, and uplifting superhero stories I've read in a long time. A perfect mashup of Superman and Harry Potter, Shazam is a book that can please all ages, which is a hard thing to do in comics nowadays. It also serves as the perfect sequel to the movie, meaning the comic has never been more accessible to fans than it is right now. Sadly, despite Johns working hard to take Billy and his foster siblings into new, exciting directions, expanding on the whole magical realms concept, this book may actually be the most in trouble of anyone I'm talking about so far. I always fear this one is going to get cancelled, so please, for the love of the wizard Shazam, get out and read this, please.
From there, I gotta bring up House of X and Powers of X. Yes, I know it's technically 2 books, but it was 2 books by the same guy telling one story.
2019 will go down in comic book history as the year Jonathan Hickman helped the Merry Mutants shake off almost a decade's worth of ring rust and again become the biggest thing at Marvel Comics. Obviously, we had seen stories before where the X-Men created their own communities apart from humanity, be it an island or a meteor or what have you, but Krakoa is a whole new kind of beast. Hickman clearly did his homework in understanding why stuff like Asteroid M and Genosha all failed and why this whole new mutant country would be so different. House and Power also created an in-story reason to bring back everyone's favorite X-Men, no matter how big or how small, gave them a brand new status quo while also keeping what everyone liked. The biggest character, though, to get an upgrade was Moira McTaggart, who now, thanks to her newly retconned Groundhog Day-style powers, is the most important mutant who ever lived and key to the founding of Krakoa. The best part about the Hickman era of X-Men is knowing full well how the writer likes to play the long game and how things are really only getting started, and that this is the version of X-Men that's going to be staying with us for a long time now. The X-Men brand has also been opened up in a huge way now. Do you like science fiction? Do you like political thriller? Do you like magic? Well, guess what? There's an X-Men book for you now because the characters are just so damn versatile. They can touch any genre, and they will. X-Men under Hickman may also go down as probably the greatest comeback story in superhero-dom this decade.
And my last favorite book that I really wanted to talk about for 2019 isn't going to surprise anyone, especially if you checked out the thumbnail for this very video. Naturally, I'm talking about The Immortal Hulk from Al Ewing.
Immortal Hulk is one of those books that truly only comes around every so often, a genre-bending masterpiece that takes a familiar character, in this case Bruce Banner, to places you never even thought possible. It began its run last year as a wonderfully fresh and creepy horror story that brought the Jade Giant back to his roots as a monster. And since then it's only continued to evolve into a cosmic horror series involving gods and even the devil, a mashup that drew a lot of very positive comparisons to the work of Alan Moore on Swamp Thing. But then, when that was done, the book changed gears yet again, and now the Hulk has become a pointedly political series that sees the Jade Giant battling corporate greed and global warming in stories that are all too topical and ripped from the headlines. As Banner puts it, the world and its systems are broken beyond saving, and it must be smashed in order to be rebuilt. All these things don't sound like they should work together, but they totally do. It's a very great comic, one that can't be missed, and probably the best comic of the year. year. And so there you have it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, down in the comments section below, tell me what your favorite comic books of the year were. And until next time, this has been Cape Joel, bidding you a heartfelt farewell, and here's hoping we have even more great comic books to talk about together in 2020. Bye-bye.